This is the last day of what's been an extraordinary symposium. I hope you all agree. I've certainly learned a lot. My name's Pat Ammons, and I'm the Director of Public and Media Relations here at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. We have a treat for us this morning. We are going to start this morning hearing from Carl Holden, and he is going to talk about the trust framework, ethically integrating AI into your organization, which is certainly something I think a lot of us have a lot of thoughts about and questions about over this past few days. So Carl is a LinkedIn top voice in AI and has certifications with more than 150 hours of AI courses, classes from the Wharton School of Business, IBM, Microsoft, Google, and more. For the last decade, he has been an owner and creative director of Zealous Marketing, an agency well known for ranking clients in Google locally and nationally. Carl is a world semifinalist in Toastmasters. So for those of you who may not know what Toastmasters is, that's an organization that focuses on teaching people how to speak publicly. He speaks at networking events and other conferences on the topics of marketing topics of marketing or AI. He is an Amazon top author in marketing and web analytics, AI contributor for the Huntsville Business Journal, and a writer for Forbes Business Council. Carl has extensive knowledge in AI fundamentals as well as hands-on knowledge in generative AI through his agency and other entrepreneurial endeavors. Please welcome Carl Holden.
All right. Thank you all for coming on a Friday. I even see some people here from the cyber school, so I'm really excited for all of you to be here today. Okay. I don't get it. Like, why don't people trust AI? I mean, it's good for humanity. Like, what could possibly go wrong? Now, only the more mature audience here laugh. For you youngsters over here, have any of you seen A Space Odyssey? Okay. It did not go well. The robot just kind of killed everybody on the spacecraft. So yeah, okay, fine. NASA should do a better job about making its computers a little more human-friendly. Yeah, that didn't go well either with that has nothing, oh wait, no. The spaceship was taken over by an AI and made everyone addicted to VR. Okay, I can kind of see where, yeah, I mean, though he could have just turned the internet off and just destroyed humanity. We lost, AT&T yesterday and everybody went crazy. I think Ultron had a lot more opportunities and really, well, kind of squandered. This is 20 years old, by the way, iRobot. Yeah, the AI stuff. The Matrix is actually about AI. Most people forget that. I don't know what this is, but there's lots of other AI movies. And yeah, they don't exactly, and okay, fine. So maybe movies about AI don't exactly go great, but it's not like we're sticking them in robots. Oh, yeah, well, I mean, but yeah, okay, fine. So yeah, they are what's on that? Oh my God. All right, okay, fine. So yeah, maybe we're not going exactly in the direction we're all comfortable with. So it does kind of feel, and I put this meme in, and I'm glad there's some young people, older people. This is a meme. They're on the internet, and they're funny because they have words and pictures. That's the definition of a meme. And yes, it kind of feels like there's a fire going on, and we're not really sure what to do, so we say, okay, this is fine. But the threat to humanity is not a bunch of pictures of robots. It's people making choices like this. People in leadership positions saying, you know what? Let's just get rid of half our staff, put Jeff on ChatGPT, and everything's better. We're making more money. Everybody wins, right? No one wins. Those people lost their jobs. That's not cool. And it happened to several companies you know. Anybody use Duolingo? Yeah, a good chunk of their translation staff, ChatGPT now. These are the faces we should probably have a little more concern about. Does anybody know who these people are? Who's that? Somebody say. Sam Altman. That guy runs OpenAI. Default character when you boot up Skyrim. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg. He does look like you haven't edited the face in like a video game yet. But anyways, who's this? CEO of Google. These people are making decisions right now that's going to affect you and me tomorrow. Those are the kinds of things that we are facing in this future, and we're hoping that they're going to do ethical things. And by being a user of their products, you can hold those people accountable. Be more vocal in your opinion online about what you think AI should or shouldn't do. We're at a decision point. Do we chase the path of efficiency and cost reduction for the sake of profit, or do we choose a higher, nobler path that respects humanity and builds trust? And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is creating trust within organizations between the humans and the AI that they use. So why listen to me? She explained some of the reasons why, but I've actually been using AI for a couple years now. It's just before ChatGPT, it was still pretty stupid. It couldn't do a whole lot. We'd use it for a little bit, but was anybody using it? Who used it that November 2022? Who downloaded it onto their computer? Or, well, opened it up on the browser? Do you know that in 2 months, that's all it took for ChatGPT to get 100 million users? TikTok, the most viral app before that, it took them 9 months. So this got adopted really fast. The reason I've been using it is that I help businesses rank higher in Google, which is done by creating content. And what can AI do really well? Create content. So of course, I should be paying attention. But then instead of just paying attention, I decided I need to gain expertise in this, because if any of you are in marketing, you start to think, ooh, how much of this, my job is this going to do in the future? And it isn't just marketing, it's going to affect everyone. So as you can see, if you follow me, you can use QR code here to follow me on LinkedIn. I started contributing to their AI articles and other things, and have acquired the top artificial intelligence voice, which is a top 3% of people on LinkedIn. So feel free, if you're wanting to watch someone locally here that talks about AI, I talk about it a lot. My wife is tired of it, so I'm glad I can dump it on you today instead of just her. That's great. What can you do? What did I do? Just start learning. So much of this is available for free. We first started implementing it internally, and then last year I attended the Marketing AI conference, and I learned something really important. It said, AI will not take your job. People who know how to use AI will take your job. Okay, so if you're worried about your career in the future, that AI is going to take your job, no, AI is good at tasks. And it will take certain tasks. So you need to learn what type of tasks you're good at that the AI is not, aided by AI, and you will do great. So all of these, except for the Wharton one, that was paid, all of these on this one, all of these are free online that you could start taking and publish into your LinkedIn. And I am starting a course at MIT next month as well. I got a lot of questions on how does it work? How do I get started? How does our company use it? I was getting this enough because we use it in our organization that I thought, I think there needs to be some actual instructions on this, because all that the internet said was just, look, ChatGPT is a little smarter today. And then these started popping up at the beginning or middle end of last year, and I thought, there's really something that needs to be done. So I took those courses, 150 hours of my own, also personal experience, consulting with other AI users, listening to books and podcasts, and applying it with my own clients. That's when I came up with the trust framework. And I was in the middle of writing it. I was about 80% done, and then the opportunity to speak here today came up, and I said, yeah, I'll talk about the trust framework. I should probably publish the book. And so I got it on Amazon. Please feel free to download it. And as you can see, I'd love a couple more reviews. I've got 3. Thanks, Mom. Actually, it's not my mother. There are 3 people who are not related to, wait, no, my brother did. Anyways, please go on and give it a review if you can. If I had more copies, I'd do a Oprah Winfrey. You get a book, and you get a book. But I have like 7 printed ones, so don't quite have that today. But I've put it as low a price as possible, just to cover the costs, so that we can get it out there to people. What is trust? Well, it's an acronym, and the middle of it that I want you to remember today, the U is for user. This is about a way we can use AI in our organizations, in our companies, in a way that doesn't destroy trust, that people are going to feel comfortable with, that people can stay gainfully employed. There is an ethical path to this efficiency, and it's human first. You'll see within the trust framework that it has the 4 different principles, which I'll go over in a sec, but you will find that all of those revolve around the user itself, the person using the AI, not the AI. Notice how the trust framework isn't specifically saying how the AI is the center of everything. It is still us. And when we lose connection with the fact that our work as humans still doesn't revolve around us, that's the kind of mental thinking that puts us down those movie paths. Here's a couple of fundamental things, if you don't know already, that I think is important for everybody to know. Stop freaking out. AI is nowhere near sentient at this point, but that Sam Altman guy wants it to be. Whether or not we should be doing that's a great question, but it is not sentient. Your ChatGPT is a text prediction system with basically the whole world's knowledge dumped into it, but it's still just text prediction. It can't actually even really do very good math right now. It just knows on the internet 1 + 1 = 2 because it saw it 1,000,000 times. It's data driven, so it doesn't make any new ideas. It can remix the things that are within its system, but creativity is like coming up with completely new ideas is still a human endeavor. It is a broad field, so when you say studying AI, there are so many different ways to go at that. So figure out within AI what your interest is. Normally within your own profession, what can you do in that? Like how do you apply it? And then there is those of you, especially our young people here, who want to actually work on the algorithms and the math and the software in creating that. So there's kind of the two-fold there, and you've got to choose. AI can be biased. I was just talking today with someone, if anybody saw the news of Google's image generators, it did some stuff, bad enough that they had to take it down, and it only has the data that it's given. So it's biased purely by math. And those are kinds of problems we're having to deal with. So it's also a weakness that it has, which, it does actually kind of share with us, unfortunately. We can be biased, but we know the difference between right and wrong. It does not. And in saying that, AI is fallible. It's going to make a lot of mistakes. ChatGPT yesterday was just spitting out gibberish. A multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company's AI just straight up crashed for hours on end, and they had to redo things. To train AI, it requires immense computational power. But there are companies now, my slides are already out of date. If you've heard of Grok, it's a GROQ. They have created AI-specific chips that can generate text almost simultaneous to you typing it, which is pretty crazy. But to train your own AI, you have to have a lot of servers. And that's partly why AI has come to this point. Everybody's asking, we've had a lot of technology. Why are we just now seeing this come forth? Well, if you didn't notice, Facebook and Google and all these people have been building warehouses full of servers. And that wasn't to host your baby pictures on Facebook. There was an end game to that. They needed big computational facilities to eventually do these kinds of things. And I've alluded to this already, that AI can automate tasks, but not jobs. This robot's not going to come in and say, all right, Jerry, well, it's been fun, but I'm here to take over. That's not going to happen, but it will take over tasks that you used to do. AI is a tool, not a team member. And there's some cultural things we'll do within our organizations where you can avoid, like, actually, because it can do such human things, there's cultural things you should avoid in doing that. And of course, AI has ethical and societal implications, and as you are using it in your organization, be aware of that. And it is not something to underestimate. AI will only get smarter. I think it's funny thinking about, especially the young people here, back in when I was in high school, MySpace was a thing. Oh, who remembers, who embarrassingly had a MySpace profile? Oh, yeah. We didn't even have social media. They were called forums. You would just type words. It took a while to upload photos, and then you had MySpace, and we thought it was awesome. You can give it like red backgrounds with green text, and that was cool back then. Anyway, we've come a long ways since then. Within the book, there's a couple of different mechanisms that I help people understand whether or not they need to start incorporating AI. So I'm going to be giving examples of some of the graphs and other things that I've put within the book to help you understand as an organization. So if you're somebody who is currently in the throes of talking with your boss about whether or not AI should be a thing, I have an AI readiness index within the book that is an 11 question questionnaire that kind of goes through where are you at on this spectrum. And basically, to kind of explain quickly, as you are higher on the spectrum of these, there's more that AI can do. And there are two lines for the humans, because certain people have a certain amount of skill and some people have a higher amount of skill, but we're going to kind of treat AI at any given moment has a certain amount of capability that this line can change, but that's partly what we're looking at is there's variability in here. How much of AI you use can kind of help make up for that. So when you get the book and it's something you want to start talking organizationally, you can go through and score yourselves to figure out where you fall on this index. What I'm suggesting to everyone is to create an AI council. This is really step one. Get people together, whether it's at your school or at your nonprofit or at your company. Create an AI council that meets and discusses about AI. Just simply has these conversations. Stop having it like at the coffee, oh, you know what? Yeah, I've been using ChatGPT over at my desk, I'm not sure what to think about it. That's not helping us right now. Start having people meet together. And what I've talked to, you can call it whatever you want, the Trust Accord, which is a document within your organization that is laying out the rules of which you are going to be using AI. And then that is published to your company at all times. Full transparency, this is what we're deciding on AI. As far as I have asked, less than 2% of companies that I've met here in town are doing anything like this, including super large government contracting agencies that have made no public or company statements about the use of AI. And then employees like, yeah, I crack open ChatGPT and do like half my programming on there. Well, okay, that's not inherently wrong, but what's your company said? Well, they haven't said anything. We have to start making these decisions, and we have to start meeting together. And I talk more within the book for it to be a wide group of people within your organization. Include HR, include IT, include marketing. Get everybody on the same page to start having these conversations. And again, this is a trust framework. So T is for technology. R is for risk management, U is for user, S is for strategy, and T is for training. So we're going to go through each of those. And most important, C is for cookie. That has nothing to do with my presentation. I just wanted you to know, and that's good enough for me. All right, let's get on. I thought I'd throw the cookie thing in after showing you robots with guns on them. Lighten things up. All right, so T is for technology. Within the trust framework, there are 5 sections also within each letter. And you'll see the 5th one is always about the user. And I'll explain that in a little bit once we get to user. But I don't have time today to go over all the sections. There is a lot in here, but I'm going to show a couple that I think are important, easy wins for you to start understanding the process of implementing AI ethically into your organization. So first of all, generating software. I gave ChatGPT this text and said generate like 4 different models. It did pretty good. I mean, those are letters. I wanted that to be number 2, but it did pretty good. I did this on my first try. So first of all, the SaaS model is what a lot of people are using, especially in marketing. This AI does Grammarly. A lot of that is AI generated, or there are different programs that do specific tasks, and that's kind of your SaaS model where it's trained on one thing. You can get your profile and get started. It's immediately ready for you to use. Now, the out-of-the-box broad AI, that's your ChatGPTs. That's your Claude, that's your Gemini. It does a lot of things. It's not trained on any specific task, but the fact that it does a lot of things makes it incredibly useful. But it does take a little bit more figuring out how you would use it within your organization versus SaaS level. It's just really easy to tell what that's going to do. And then the level 3 is your blank base model. Those are things like Facebook has published Llama, those large language models that you can't just exactly crack open an internet browser and start using it. It's one you can plop on a server. But it's pre-trained in that it already can do things. And then the level 4 is a customer new. That's you deciding, we're going to, from the ground up, make the algorithms that create our AI. These are the 4 major choices that any organization has in implementing an AI system. And that's, again, where that score comes in handy of your organization, where you're at, how much of it can be done by AI, that, you've got the level 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of moving down this matrix. The more you need the AI to do, the more likely it is that you have to create a custom solution. And that also comes down to, do you have staff that can actually write AI algorithms and all of those things? How sensitive is your data? Is it okay for it to be put into a SaaS or out-of-the-box model? Those are all things you can talk about internally in your AI council. Receiving hardware. Now, any IT professionals in here? Okay. This is talking about where's the AI actually going to be touching a computer? Where will it live? Where will people be accessing it? And this is not as important right now, but as AI gets more integrated into things, it's important for you as an organization to know where it's being accessed or where you're pulling data from, which would be like your edge devices of collecting data for AI. So networking and security should be considered in this stage of thought. And some people here who might be in government contracting will say, the government will never let us use this. I can do this. Read the AI executive order. It's a 20,000-page document, which is a third of a Harry Potter book. And it's the government saying, use AI. So while our IT professionals, of course, to protect us, will tell us no all the time, which is they're doing their job. We have to get everybody on board of, well, no to that, but maybe we can do this. And that's why it's important to have IT on your AI council. This is an important thing that I've put within the book to help you understand. It's an acronym called AIDIN, which is Artificial Intelligence Deployed Instance Node. It's a smart way of saying a grouping of AI that you have doing a specific thing. This is how you can inventory your AI within your organization. One or more programs that do a task or a set of tasks. And that's how you can really start to understand the business processes. Because if you just say, well, we use ChatGPT, well, for what? And under what instances and who has access to it? If you can start to group it under a name, like we'll go over in just a sec, it helps you understand that you can identify where AI is being used in your organization. For example, again, AI is a tool, not a team member, like this person, and you could create a list of what it is, what it's being used. Like the agent in this sense is called the content GPT. Its purposes, the users. This is how you can start to categorize and label what's being done within your organization. So, because right now people aren't even really sure who's using it or where it's being used or how it's being accessed. And if there is a security issue that comes up with a certain program, you can then identify where it's being used. But people are just, well, everybody has our ChatGPT login. We'll just, hand it out. That's not how you should be doing things. And this is a quote from the book. Did anyone like C-3PO? Okay, great. I'm glad there's a C-3PO fan, because I think for the most of us, especially Han Solo, they really hated him. But he saved their tails several times. But in my book, I say we're facing a complicated future, much like Star Wars, more like Star Wars than expected in all the wrong kind of ways. Our cars aren't floating, but we've got, C-3PO had a name and did human-like things, but even its name, they used letters and numbers. So they were starting to establish lines of what is a computer and what is not. Even though the Jedi heroes would get mad at him, he'd remind them that he was only doing what he was programmed to do. So you could also see in a highly advanced organization, they still kept the rules of you should stay within your programming, even though story-wise they're like, oh, he's doing what he shouldn't do, all that stuff. Their society set boundaries such as robots did not frequent places like cantinas or make governing decisions. There weren't any robots on the Jedi Council or any of those kinds of things. And when they did, it didn't go well. That guy that had all the laser swords, but he was also semi-organic. I'm not going to get too nerdy today. If you're referring to a specific agent, which I'm using kind of like it's an acronym representing an instance. Instead of calling it agent, I'm saying it's an agent as like a pronoun, and then content GPT as the actual title of the instance of what you're using it for. The nickname points to the fact that the AI in question and the type of people accessing it. So we are looking at, they're giving human-like input, but we should still kind of put a line there, or should put a line there. Here's an example of an agent that I specifically have within our organization. We call it the SEO Post Builder. Now, for specific purposes, in case I have competitors here, some of it's proprietary of what we're using, because I've got a really good fit for what we have, so I'm just giving them general names. But first, we have an AI that looks at trends, that reviews what's ranking in Google for a specific keyword and what kinds of content and words are trending within that. So there is an AI that we access, that we grab that data, and as of right now, a human is still pulling that and putting it over into the AI or AIs that we use for writing, that generate an article based on the data that was given here. But that's not the world's greatest article even now. So it has to be, and look who's at the center of all of this work, a user, a person. It's a circle, not a, square. Puts that originality and flair that Google likes to see from people, and it takes across the line from being something just computer generated to something unique and human. And then taking that back and putting it back into the Trends AI and looking now, how does this perform against the data? And do the final check within the grammar AI, adding a couple of different variances to the content. And from this is an agent that we have within our organization, SEO Post Builder. And the great way of why you should be doing this is if there ends up being software that does this trends better, you can take it out and replace it with something else, kind of like making a Lego vehicle. When you start to categorize and then line up the different softwares that you're using, this is where you can start to really understand how you're using AI within the organization, what parts people are doing, what parts does the AI do, and you know exactly who's accessing it, where the data's going, because there's a lot I don't have documented here. But you still have the user at the center. Multiple AI programs are being used. And like I said, you can replace things if you need to, but it has a specific purpose. Rather than saying this is our general AI for all things, give it an associated, this is SEO post builder, which is a type of content that we place out on the internet to help our clients rank higher. And last of all, within technology, I talk about the user and testing and working, because it isn't about the AI, it's about the people. How will you encourage and empower them? And within my book, I say the highest road for humans and AI is optimization, not marginalization or reduction. If you believe and feel those kinds of words in your organization, you're doing it wrong. You should feel like it's an uplifting, optimizing act, or you're not going about it right. And if you haven't been able to tell, all of my pictures are generated in AI. I don't know why he's facing that way, but still not as much control over it as we'd like. R is for risk management. For those of you who are in IT, you're like, all right, let's get to the good stuff here. What's this all about? Again, if you're categorizing everything within the term of AIDN, you can create a network checklist of who has access, responsibility, permissions, what the bandwidth is, the data that's coming in, who's receiving training, where it's being implemented, and then when was the last time it was checked. So you can create these systems and documents within your company to either have IT or other people start just making sure they understand where the AI is being used in your organization. Because there is some level of bureaucratic mechanisms in order for you to really start optimizing for efficiency. Here's a really important decision we all have to start making. Then it's an important one I want you to remember today, not so much about organizing your AI into groups and things. There are two paths to AI that are ethical. There is the path of flexibility, which is to allow the people who are working more free time, that the AI is doing more than it had to, so maybe you go to a 4-day work week. You give people flexibility, more work from home. Or you can go to the productivity side, which is push more to keep things where they are, make sure that people can get more done, give more responsibility, but also the rewards that come with it are given to the people and not to the AI. So if they create a culture in which the AI levels up the output, the people are rewarded for that. So those are really the two kind of ethical ways you can go. But that's not the path that people are taking. They're basically saying, well, you know, we just need less people. So we're going to reduce, delete that person, stick an AI in there, and just replace. And that's not an ethical path. So within an organization, within your AI council, you can start to understand, what does the future of our organization look like? Are we looking to create more flexibility for our people? Are we looking to create greater productivity within our organization? And there could be a balance between both. Within the risk management section, what I go to is basically the rights and accessibility. And I encourage, if you're going to do something like the Trust Accord, to create a bill of user rights. And these are the rights that people have if you are going to be implementing AI into your organization. What rights do humans have? They should know where and what is being assigned by AI and people. They should not be having their data or other things collected without their knowledge. The people need to understand how the systems are being used, that they can be seen logging in. So helping them understand that, both for the people internally, and if your product is AI, helping externally people to understand and creating a framework within that. Equality. This is important because AI is going to make people so much better at what they do and accomplish much more. You need to make sure that everybody within your organization has access to it. This is really important, is the right to challenge. Because we're going to come into a future where organizations say, well, the AI says this, and we're just going to go with whatever the AI says. And that's going to upset people. It's going to make people lose trust. So you should have the ability for people to challenge what's coming out and say, this doesn't feel right, or I'm seeing data elsewhere. I think the AI is biased. And then you should side with the humans until you can prove the humans wrong, not vice versa. Those are the kinds of things people need to do. Education. They have a right to training for these things, and then a right to work. That's all this is about, is that we're all going to be going to our jobs, we get paid to do things, we have the right to work, and so the organization should make sure we are getting to do that word, is work. We have that right. If we're just creating AIs to replace that, then you have no rights. Okay, so the U again is for user, and you'll see on my book the humans shape the letter U, and it's big and it's in the middle, and these are just out on the fringes because within every single section, users is at the center. And you'll find that the chapter for user within the book is 3 pages because it basically says that same thing. Look at all the other sections because people are at the center of this. And really, if you were, I could have put all those 5s into one chapter, but I wanted it to be very clear that in any part of these strategies that you create, that people are at the forefront. Okay, S is for strategy. And we go through these different piloting and rollout, resource allocation, and all of those. We'll start here. How do I get started? That's the number one question. How do I implement AI within my organization? And it's called piloting. Within the industry, a lot of people call it piloting. For those of you who are in the military, the crawl, walk, run. So you got to crawl, you got to start somewhere. You can create a system of progress reports where you give people, you assign an AIDN with specific AIs that are underneath each of those, and you allow progress reports in a way, a culture of, we're trying this out. It is not required output for your job. If you immediately dump AI on a team and say, all right, do your job with this right now, who in any job is going to be like happy about that of, I don't even know how this works or what it can give. But that's what companies are doing. They say, here's AI, you're going to start doing your job and I'm going to expect this kind of output. You have to give people a period of time to where you have this piloting, which I tell is anywhere from 1 to 3 months, depending on the size of your business. And then you come to specific decision points, which I line out how you turn it into rollout. Rollout is a system in which it's actually doing work, and then mature, meaning this is systems that you intend to be using for the long term. So if you create this kind of phased system, as an employee, as a worker within your organization, you'll feel more comfortable about it. And so as an AI council, you then start to have conversations in here about planning, which come down to different things like what teams are using it, what kind of yield do they get, who's running into the issue. And then as you hit mature systems, you mature AIDN that have proven results, you then get more into the sustainability conversations of do we have the bandwidth to make sure this continues as it is? What kind of KPIs do we now assign to this kind of systems? But still leaving yourself the ability to pivot. And some of this, for maybe the younger audience and stuff, this doesn't, oh gosh, this sounds like a lot of paperwork. And we do have to document what we're doing here. You can't just haphazardly go at implementing AI into your organization. But if you have a group of people who represent different parts of your organization, it's from there that you can then make these decisions that are going to have the most generalized uplift to your company. Last one, T is for training. And so basically, in all the stuff that you're doing, you need to be making training for all the people within your organization to use it. And you'll notice that each of the sections of training are about the different sections of the trust framework itself. So like for technology, it's the training around the implementation or the day-to-day work. For risk management, it's training within the regulation of what you do with it. Within strategy, it's how the people are collaborating as an organization, not so much as people. And then training, of course, the documentation, where is this all living? How is it being written? Those kinds of conversations. And then last of all, training around iteration, or how is there a process being encouraged around incentivized innovation of creating better processes for the users. As I said, within implementation, everyone has to start somewhere. So those who first get in and start, those are also the same kind of people that can help create training for those who follow behind them to start using it. This reduces fear and improves trust by leaving step-by-step instructions for people to use, stuff that's worked, stuff that has not, and the ability to ask other people about how you implement this into your organization. This is another important one that I go through because it's going to be really hard for some organizations and leadership to say, we want to get started, but I don't want to do anything that's wrong or gets us in trouble. So you can create, before you even create a Bill of Rights, a basic set of rules that if you can follow these rules, you'll mostly do okay. That you'll still make mistakes, but first of all, be human. That kind of transparency of what is expected of people and to be kind about it, which I allude back to at the beginning because it's all about the users. Be careful. If something seems odd or out of place, don't assume that's correct. As I said at the beginning, AI is fallible, it can make mistakes, it can do things you don't want it to do. Be creative. And this is important. AI does not have any ideas. It's just incredibly complicated math that can remix things that feels like creativity. But you as a human can still guide and direct it. And when a creative person uses AI, and if you've seen some projects of people, it's way better than when a non-creative person uses AI. So you can still see that human effect. Be curious. Create within your organization the ability to try new things and no fear if it does not work out. And be meticulous, meaning you document it, and then be kind. I don't know why we can't get this right in workplaces even before AI was out, but let's just be nice to each other. And a lot of this other stuff will line right up. It's when people start to be judgmental or they start to say, hey, I think you're letting AI do too much of your work, and these kind of backbiting conversations that happen within the workplace. Create these set of rules and everything goes a lot easier. And then within documentation, this is what's really interesting about AI. When I said training, you're all thinking, oh man, I don't want to watch a bunch of just videos that somebody recorded. There's a future and an opportunity in which the training, as you, maybe within the HR department, allow access to an Aiden for Aidens that gets documentation about an AI you can access that's then talking about how AI is used in your organization. This is going to be for larger companies, but you can use the same principles on themselves, and that way people will learn faster because the training for AI can also be dictated by AI and helping people understand how it's used in the organization and how they can be empowered by it. So in conclusion, because that's what ChatGPT wants to do every single time, then you write an article. In conclusion, stop using conclusion. We will stop using in conclusion. And it just does it every time. Someone should talk to Sam Altman about just deleting the word conclusion in ChatGPT. But you have to think about it. Were we the ones using in conclusion the whole time? Did our 5th grade teacher that taught us how to write 5-paragraph papers always tell us to do in conclusion? That's the funny thing. We complain about what stuff AI does, but is it somewhat collectively just a reflection of what we're doing? Anyways, philosophical stuff. Please read the book. That starts you somewhere, gets you having these conversations, hand it out to people within your organization, within your school, anywhere, churches, everybody can be looking at this and figuring out how AI is used. Contact people like myself if you feel like you're not really sure where to get started. Sometimes having someone externally who's helped other people do this is really helpful. So in conclusion, that's all I have. So we'll open it up to questions. I think there are people. Oh, well, you can clap, I guess. Good. So does anybody have any questions? Okay.
You use the acronym SEO multiple times. What is that?
Search engine optimization. Sorry. Marketing person, I'm just like, everybody knows what that is, right? Because I look at it every day. Search engine optimization, which is the effort of helping working the algorithm of Google to rank your site higher for more visibility, more business.
So thank you very much for the presentation. It was awesome. My question is coming from an HR standpoint. So I'm an HR director of a privately owned GovCon, and so this might be a little different if you're unionized or if you have different environments you're in, but I fully agree you have to give time for adoption. You can't just tell your people, hey, by the way, this new task-oriented job duty that you've been doing for the past couple of years is about to get replaced, so pack your bags. I completely agree. That's very inhuman, and you should be giving your workforce a chance to adopt appropriately over an amount of time. So my question is really geared towards a year or so later, you've been telling your workforce, get ready, these are the tools, here's how we're going to adopt for a lot of the stuff that is now possible with AI, and you have people, and it's going to happen, you have people who are obstinate, they don't want to change because this is the way I've been doing it, and I'm just gonna keep on doing what I've been doing. There will come a point in my type of industry where you will have to lay off people who just refuse to adapt, even though you've given them a chance. So is that, just by your definition, I know you said it was unethical to, just lay off people because you can do it with, AI's, capabilities, but what about people who refuse to adapt to what is coming and they are now just an option as far as what they are to you? How do you handle that?
I think that's a great question, one that maybe doesn't have a right answer for everybody, so what I say is not the Bible truth. But what I would say is that if you have people within your organization like that who refuse, it's one of two things. They either don't understand why you're using it, or they simply like the job they had and they want to keep that job. And if those kinds of people eventually churn out of this, there's only so much you can do about that. There were people like that when we said, we're gonna start using this internet thing. And this guy's like, nope, I'm gonna keep writing all of our documents by hand. Well, that person's no longer at that company because Word documents came out. And if people make hard stops, again, it's either they like the job that they had or they don't understand. And that's where this time of creating a council where you're saying, these are our goals and this is why we're implementing this. Here's an example, especially within government contracting. Again, I would highly suggest, have you guys gone through the AI executive order?
We are. I actually have a meeting team that is looking into this right now.
Perfect.
We're on the cusp of actually getting to this.
That's awesome. So, if you go through that, you will see that right now the government laid out a bunch of definitions of what AI is, said, by the way, this is gonna start showing up in our contracts. You need to start understanding this language. Because what happens to an organization like yourself that it's a contract you would normally expect, and then number 10 says, explore the uses of AI to help optimize this system. I mean, you guys don't know how to do that. And you're like, oh, say 1 through 9. And we'll just ignore the fact that they said 10 and submit that. And then let's say, woman-owned business over here, Sarah tells Jeff, start figuring this stuff out. And there's 20 bills over here who are doing manually, and Sarah has employed 4 Jeffs and an AI. As an organization, who's getting that contract? Who costs more, 4 Jeffs or 20 bills? And so you have to understand and communicate within your organization, especially in government contract, one, The government has said you will use this. The number one requirement that repeats in that 20,000-page document is workforce AI talent in the government and in government contracting. So if people don't realize that this is a priority, and guess what? They're on time for every single objective in the executive order. When does the government ever do that? They're on time. So they're paying attention. So if you're creating this culture in this council that transparently, not, hey, let's go meet on the AI council. Hey, what are they doing? Like, that's not the kind of AI council you should do, one that's secret, that people are like, oh, what's going on? Doing it together as a group that's transparent. And you're in HR, you understand. If people see that this conversation to be had and that there is open to input, you're going to reduce that kind of friction that you're seeing. And if someone really continues to not want to do it, then that's a bigger HR problem than AI. Great question. Young person over here, and then there, we'll get him.
Thank you. I have a question about data privacy. AI is trained on so many things that are just out there on the internet. Most of these are copyrighted and things that come straight from somebody else's mind, somebody else's creativity. And that is what AI is trained on. How are we going to ethically use that without any credit or compensation to that original person? How could that be ethically implemented in business, especially with it being used so much more like you're talking about right now?
Awesome question. Really great question. One that's not exactly been answered yet. There are currently lawsuits about this very subject, of which when we come to those, we'll know what the law says. But until those get decided, there is also the risk of just saying, well, we're just not going to use it. So there is definitely why implementing at least pilot projects and understanding it is important. There are also companies that are training on ethical data. And if you want to go to full ethical thing to do, Adobe and Getty Images, if you're using their trained software, they are training it only on assets they have full and legal right to. So it depends within your spectrum on the ethics of the training of AI. The argument of the big companies is that it was trained by that stuff, that it doesn't specifically spit it back out verbatim, and that their argument is humans read things and then have ideas. I mean, I can't say that trust framework even isn't pulled from the things I did from those trainings. And that's kind of the thing that they're saying there, is it's kind of the brain is an amalgamation of all the data that it's gotten. Why can't we have computers make the same amalgamation? That's a great question that I don't think we have the answer for, but this is exactly why you should be paying attention, especially within HR departments or within your IT. I think the important thing would be to label, or when you're giving a presentation, saying, yeah, by the way, a lot of these pictures are made by AI. So saying that it is, because then there's this whole other side that the government just said too. And if you're looking to make money, guess what's going to come back? Crypto. Because we're going to need to create a blockchain that proves what the president and the White House said. They're going to be creating a crypto chain of, this is exactly, when we see a video of the President of the United States, there will be some kind of code or scan that you can scan in and then see that that is actually him talking, and that some kind of organization was there recording it. That's the kind of future we're getting into. We're going to be finally using the Bitcoin technology for something other than dumb pictures of monkeys to sell online for $10,000. Instead, we have to use it to say what's been made by humans. And I think we're in this future potentially where what you said of these creative things, in some ways, I think it's going to create a higher value for art that's made by humans, because it's going to make a lot of people lazy. And then the people who truly pursue art are going to get even more attention. We're going to want what's made by humans even more than we used to. There could be that effect as well. Great question. I think we saw a hand over here.
Thanks, great presentation. So just a couple of feedback comments, and I do have a question. I work for a large publicly traded financial institution, and to be quite honest, the idea that I think that the U.S. markets do see AI as this is the ability to make companies more efficient, therefore reducing expenses, and guess what creates the most expenses? FTEs, people. So I think the market's not there yet, and I think the market would not consider that unethical. Now, I'll contrast that. I have a son who works in Europe, in the Netherlands, for a large publicly traded company, where it would be considered unethical to have AI to replace people.
Right.
So they would be a lot more about, okay, if you're working, if we can get AI to let you work 4 days a week rather than 5 days a week in fewer hours due to technology and keep the same pay, they would definitely opt for that. But my question is, and by the way, I'm on my AI council, and on the risk side of the house, how do you, kind of at the high level, how do you challenge your AI usage? What kind of categorically? Is it strictly just people, end users looking at it saying, well, that doesn't seem quite right, or are there other methods that might be employed across a grander scale to do that?
That's a great question. I want to first talk about what you said, which was the reduction of staff to get things more profitable. Right now, that's to create a competitive advantage where we'll reduce our staff and replace them with AI, because our competitors haven't done that yet. But what happens when everybody reduces their staff and puts AI? Then you got to go back to getting more people in, because the only competitive advantage you can then get is getting humans back in. And if you burn all the bridges of saying we are a path of least resistance here, the companies who do it ethically, I believe, will put themselves in a position for people to be more comfortable than those who just, I mean, if I was a translator, I would tell you, a company I'm not working for? Duolingo. I'm not going to go there. They got rid of their staff with the emails. It's like breaking up with somebody in a text. Didn't even have a conversation, just like, peace out, or adios. In Spanish, it's a joke for Duolingo. Okay. So there's going to be this reduction, but I believe that there will be a ramp back up in that, and the people who succeed in that ramp back up didn't burn the bridges. Now, as far as the risk management internally, with every single organization, if you have a set culture, set way of doing things, you need to address creating this AI council based against the culture you've already created. AI will not create a new culture for your company. And so you have to kind of bridge those gaps of how things are being internally done now and how you can edge people towards a future with that in there. Now, that's why you have multiple different types of people in your AI council to look at it from different sides. But there's also, you have to create a culture of let's do something. Because you could in large organizations, and I've run into a couple we've worked with where they just say no to everything. So what you can start off with is the low risk, high reward piloting activities of incorporating one thing that the AI council decides to do and get an initial win, that it's working, that it's been documented and they've been trained on it. And if you can get that initial win, these larger, more complicated problems that you're referring to are easier because you've got an example. A lot of the problems large organizations are facing is they say, we're going to be AI first and just jump feet first into it. And the CEO says, these 20 departments need all of it replaced by this period of time. And then that's where people are like, the sky's falling. You got to involve the people in some initial wins, get those implemented, and then say, see this? How we did this and no one was upset about it, or there was that one guy who didn't like AI, but he didn't like computers when we got the internet either, so his time here timed out. But so initial wins and then aligning to the culture that you already have and see where you can get some AI programs that fit into that in an ethical manner. So super complicated question, but hopefully that's useful. Got a question over here.
So how would you go about like ethically implementing, and like if you could, into like digital marketing and lead generation?
Sure. So within our own company, we did recognize the fact that what I had paid people to do previously, I didn't need to pay people to do all of that. So instead of getting rid of said people, we had them do other things that they were good at with those skills. And what we have seen in our organization is before ChatGPT and this growth, there was a certain amount of people that I would need to get to there. If we're setting a path and a culture of using those things, it's not as many people as we needed. But I also, in doing this, want to make sure and talk to our staff about, like, if you see a tool that you think will make your job easier, please bring it. Because we can get that working, try it out, get it to a maturity level. It makes your job easier. And honestly, I've gone the path of flexibility. We have basically unlimited paid time off in our agency. So if you need to go do a thing, go to the doctor, and you're getting your work done, go do it. Because that's a path you can choose. And so within the lead generation and the SEO, again, we focus a lot on ranking websites higher. And so there's a lot of, and then when people get there, how do you get them to convert? There's a lot of software SaaS technology that lots of other very smart people in Boston and other places have created software that helps us do that. And so we're constantly having to do training. So I'm encouraging and sending training to employees and introduce new stuff. So really it just comes down to a culture of learning and trying, and that my team feels comfortable in saying, hey, I think this would make this easier, and me not get upset like, oh, so you want an easier job, huh? Well, I'll just pay you less. You know, that's kind of a boomer thing to say, right? You don't do that. People won't like that. You want to give people the ability to use this and make their lives easier, and then you can choose, all right, great, well, I need you to start doing this, or hey, you know what, just make sure your work gets done this week and we're good and we'll implement some stuff in the future. So it's gonna come down to the leadership. But there's so many opportunities. The problem I see isn't that, for marketing companies, that it isn't the implementation of AI, it's the, oh, you know, we'll get to it. Because I'm seeing advances, which I'm happy about, competitors who aren't using this kind of stuff, that I'm able to rank sites faster than other people in the area just because we've implemented these systems. But that needs to have an uplifting effect to everybody, not just benefit me as an owner.